Danny Walsh had been at Westbrook High School for exactly 3 weeks when the incident occurred. He kept to himself, spoke little, and made no friends. The other students knew almost nothing about him except that he used a wheelchair because of what everyone assumed was a car accident last summer. The school hallways were always crowded between classes. Students pushed past each other, talked loudly, and slammed locker doors. Danny usually waited until most students had gone to their next class before he moved through the halls. He did not like crowds. Today was different. Danny had a science test next period and needed to get to class on time. He wheeled himself into the busy hallway and tried to move through the crowd. Most students moved out of his way when they saw him coming. A few gave him sympathetic smiles. Danny did not want their sympathy, but he nodded politely. Near the end of the hallway, 3 seniors stood blocking the path. Kyle Benson was the tallest of the 3. He had dark hair and wore the red jacket of the school football team. Next, to him stood Frank Morris and Peter Dawson. The 3 boys were well known at Westbrook High. Teachers often looked the other way when they caused trouble, because Kyle's father donated money to the school. Danny slowed his wheelchair as he approached the boys. He could tell from their faces that they would not move aside easily. He considered turning around and taking the longer route to class, but that would make him late for his test. "Excuse me," Danny said quietly. "I need to get past." Kyle looked down at Danny with cold eyes. "Well, look who it is. The new kid." He put his hand on Danny's wheelchair. "Where are you going so fast?" "I have a test next period," Danny explained. He kept his voice calm. "Please let me pass." Frank leaned against the lockers. "Did you hear that, Kyle?" He said, "Please." Peter laughed. The sound echoed in the now empty hallway. The bell had rung, and all the other students had gone to their classes. Danny was already late. "You know," Kyle said, looking at his friends, "I've been watching you wheel around like you own the place, acting all quiet and mysterious. The teachers love you already." Danny did not respond. He gripped the wheels of his chair and waited. "What happened to you anyway?" Frank asked. "Why are you in that chair?" "That's not your business," Danny replied. Kyle's face turned red. He did not like being talked to that way. "Actually, I think it is our business. Everything in this school is our business." The 3 boys moved closer. Danny felt his heart beat faster, but his face remained calm. He had faced worse situations than 3 high school bullies. "Move aside," Danny said. His voice was firmer. "Now." "Or what?" Kyle challenged. "What will you do? Roll over my toes?" Peter and Frank laughed again. Kyle put his hands on the handles of Danny's wheelchair and pulled him backward. "Let go of my chair," Danny warned. "You do not want to do this." Something in Danny's voice made Kyle pause for a moment. There was a strange confidence in the way Danny spoke, as if he was not afraid at all. But Kyle could not back down in front of his friends. "I think Wheelboy needs to learn how things work at Westbrook," Kyle said to the others. They were at the top of the main stairwell now. It was a wide concrete staircase that led down to the first floor. Danny looked at the stairs, then back at Kyle. His eyes narrowed slightly. "This is your last chance," Danny said quietly. "Let me go." Kyle leaned down until his face was close to Danny's. "Or what?" For a brief moment, Danny's eyes seemed to flash with an unusual blue light. But it happened so quickly that Kyle thought he had imagined it. "Very well," Danny said. He pressed something on his wristwatch. It looked like an ordinary digital watch, but the small click it made sounded strange. "What are you doing?" Frank asked, suddenly nervous. Danny looked up at the 3 boys. "Making a record of what happens next." Kyle felt a chill run down his spine, but he pushed the feeling away. He was not going to be scared by a kid in a wheelchair. "Let's see how fast you can go downstairs," Kyle said with a cruel smile. Frank moved behind the wheelchair while Peter looked up and down the empty hallway to make sure no teachers were coming. "That would not be wise," Danny said, still strangely calm. Kyle laughed. "No, let's find out." With a nod from Kyle, Frank pushed the wheelchair hard. Danny and the chair went over the edge of the stairs. The wheelchair tipped forward and Danny fell out. The chair bounced down the concrete steps with a series of loud crashes. Danny tumbled after it, his body hitting the steps as he fell. When undone, he reached the bottom. He lay still. The wheelchair was on its side, one wheel still spinning. "Oh, man," Peter whispered. "Is he okay?" Kyle looked down at Danny's motionless body. For a moment, he felt scared. Then he forced himself to laugh. "He's fine. Come on, let's go." The three boys ran away from the stairwell. They did not look back. If they had, they might have seen Danny's eyes open. They might have noticed the strange blue light that glowed in them for a moment. They might have heard him speaking quietly, into his wristwatch in a language that no human had ever spoken. As the sound of the boys' footsteps faded, Danny sat up. He should have been badly hurt from the fall, but he moved with only slight discomfort. He looked at his wristwatch and pressed several buttons. "Protocol 7, he said to the watch. "Identity compromised, requesting immediate support." The watch made a soft beeping sound and a tiny green light began to flash. Danny looked up the stairs where the boys had been standing. His expression was not angry or scared. It was almost sad, as if he felt sorry for them. "They have no idea what they've done," he said to himself. He stood up slowly. His legs moved stiffly, but they supported his weight. He walked over to the wheelchair and set it upright. Part of the chair had changed shape when it hit the stairs. Metal pieces that should have been bent were perfectly straight again. The material did not look like ordinary wheelchair parts anymore. Danny pressed another button on the watch. The wheelchair changed again, becoming normal-looking once more. He sat back down in it just as a teacher rounded the corner. "Oh my goodness," Ms. Parker cried out. "Danny, what happened?" Danny looked up at her with an expression of pain that had not been there a moment before. "I fell down the stairs," he said. His voice now sounded weak and hurt. "We need to get you to the nurse right away," Ms. Parker said, reaching for her phone. "No," Danny said quickly. "I'm okay, just shaken up." "But you could be seriously hurt," Ms. Parker insisted. Danny shook his head. "Please, I don't want any fuss. I just need to rest for a minute." Ms. Parker looked uncertain but put her phone away. "At least let me help you to the office." "Thank you," Danny said. As Ms. Parker pushed his wheelchair, Danny looked out the window at the sky. His expression was serious now. The three boys who had pushed him down the stairs would soon learn that they had made a terrible mistake. But it was already too late for them. Events had been set in motion that could not be stopped. Danny touched his wristwatch again, feeling the alien technology hidden beneath its ordinary appearance. Soon, his true mission would have to begin. Principal Gwen Matthews sat at her desk reviewing the security footage from the hallway. She watched with horror as the three boys pushed Danny down the stairs. She had already called Danny's guardian, but there was no answer. She was about to call the police when her office door opened without a knock. A tall woman in a black suit walked in. She had short brown hair and wore dark sunglasses even though she was inside. Behind her were two men in similar black suits. "Can I help you?" Principal Matthews asked, standing up. The woman took off her sunglasses. "Agent Samantha Reeves, Department of Extraterrestrial Security." She held up a badge that made Principal Matthews sit back down in shock. "I don't understand, Principal," Matthews said. "What is the Department of Extraterrestrial Security? And why are you here at my school?" Before Agent Reeves could answer, two more people entered the office. One was another agent in a black suit. The other was Danny Walsh, sitting in his wheelchair. He looked completely fine with no cuts or bruises from his fall down the stairs. "But how?" Principal Matthews stared at Danny. "You fell down a flight of stairs less than 2 hours ago. You should be in the hospital." Danny wheeled himself forward. When he spoke, his voice was not the quiet voice of a shy student. It was deeper, more confident, and carried a strange accent. "Principal Matthews, we need to speak with the 3 students involved in the incident." "You mean Kyle, Frank, and Peter? They're in detention right now. I was going to call their parents after I finished reviewing the footage." Principal Matthews looked confused. "Danny, are you okay? What's going on here?" "I will explain everything," Danny said. "But first I need to talk to those boys." Agent Reeves nodded to one of her colleagues. "Please bring the students to conference room B. We've already set it up." In the detention room, Kyle, Frank, and Peter sat in silence. Kyle kept checking his phone for the time. Frank tapped his pencil on the desk. Peter stared out the window. "You think he's okay?" Peter finally asked. "He fell pretty hard." Kyle shrugged. "He's fine. Stop worrying about it." "We could get expelled for this," Frank said. "My dad will kill me." "No one saw us," Kyle said. "And even if they check the cameras, we'll just say we were trying to help him and he lost control of his chair." The door opened and a man in a black suit entered. "You three need to come with me." The boys looked at each other nervously. "Why? Where are we going?" Kyle asked. "Conference room B." "Now." The boys followed the agent down the hallway. When they entered the conference room, they froze. Danny sat at the table looking perfectly fine. Next to him was Agent Reeves. Two other agents stood by the door. "Sit down," Agent Reeves ordered. The boys sat across from Danny. Kyle stared at him in disbelief. "How are you not hurt?" Kyle asked. Danny smiled slightly. "That's an interesting question, Kyle." The door closed, and the room became strangely quiet. Even the sounds from the hallway disappeared. One of the agents touched a small device on the wall and the windows turned dark. "What's happening?" Frank asked, his voice shaking. "Hello again," Danny said, wheeling closer to the table. "I believe we have some unfinished business." As Danny spoke, something strange began to happen. His skin took on a slight blue tint. The bruises and cuts that should have been there from the fall appeared and then healed before their eyes. Most shocking of all, his wheelchair began to change shape. The metal parts moved and shifted like liquid, forming a more advanced-looking chair with strange symbols on the sides. The three boys pushed back in their chairs, trying to get away. "What are you?" Peter whispered. "My name is not Danny Walsh," he said. "That is just the name I use here. I am Commander Daniel Walshek of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. I was sent to Earth to evaluate your species for first contact and possible alliance against the Vargon Collective." Kyle laughed nervously. "Is this some kind of joke? Are we on a hidden camera show?" Agent Reeves stepped forward. "This is not a joke. Commander Walshek has been on Earth for 6 months assessing human behavior and society. His mission was going well until today." "You expect us to believe he's an alien?" Frank asked. Danny, or Commander Walshek, raised his hand. A holographic display appeared above his palm, showing a star system none of the boys recognized. "My home world is located here, approximately 42 of your light years away. We have been watching Earth for 2 centuries, waiting for the right time to make contact." "Why are you in a wheelchair?" Peter asked, his fear giving way to curiosity. "My species cannot fully adapt to Earth's gravity. Our leg structures are different from yours. The wheelchair provides necessary support and helps me blend in. There was no car accident." Kyle's face had gone pale. "So what happens now? Are you going to abduct us or something?" Commander Walshek shook his head. "No. But your actions today have been recorded and transmitted to my superiors. They are now questioning whether humans have evolved beyond primitive aggression." Agent Reeves placed 3 folders on the table. "These are non-disclosure agreements. You will sign them, and you will never speak of what you learn in this room to anyone. If you do, the consequences will be severe." "What if we don't sign?" Kyle challenged, trying to sound brave. Agent Reeves smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "This isn't a negotiation." The boys signed the papers. When they finished, Commander Walshek spoke again. "The situation is more serious than you realize. My mission here was to determine if Earth is ready to join the Galactic Alliance. We need allies against the Vargon Collective, who have been moving toward your solar system for decades." He touched his wristwatch, and a new hologram appeared. It showed massive ships moving through space. The Vargons destroy developing civilizations. They have targeted Earth because they detected your early space exploration and radio signals. Until now, my people have been keeping them away. But if Earth is deemed unworthy of alliance, that protection will end." The boys stared at the hologram, in shock. You're saying that because we pushed you down some stairs, aliens are going to destroy Earth? Frank asked. Not exactly, Commander Walshek said. But your actions have complicated things. My report was meant to be positive. Now, I must include this incident. That's not fair, Kyle protested. You can't judge all humans because of what we did. That is precisely what I told my superiors, Commander Walshek said, which is why I have proposed a solution. Agent Reeves handed the boys new folders. You have been selected for a special mission. Report to this address on Saturday morning. Do not be late. Peter opened his folder and read the first page. Lake Michigan Research Facility? What is this? Your chance to fix what you've broken, Commander Walshek said. You wanted to know who I really am. Now you do. And now you will. Help me save your planet. As the boys left the room, they walked in stunned silence. The world they thought they knew had changed forever. Do you think they'll really come? Agent Reeves asked after the boys were gone. Commander Walshek nodded. They will come. They are afraid, but also curious. And deep down, they want to make amends. And if they don't? Commander Walshek looked out the window at the sky. Then I will have my answer about humanity. Saturday morning came too quickly for Kyle, Frank, and Peter. They met at the bus stop near Kyle's house at 6:30 a.m. None of them had slept well. Maybe we shouldn't go, Frank said, as they waited for the bus that would take them to the train station. From there, they would travel north to the Lake Michigan Research Facility. We have to go, Peter said. Did you see that Agent Reeves lady? She would find us if we tried to hide. Kyle kicked at a rock on the sidewalk. This is crazy. Aliens? Galactic alliances? It has to be some kind of trick. But deep down, Kyle knew it wasn't a trick. He had seen Danny's skin change color. He had watched the wheelchair transform. Those things could not be explained away. The journey to the research facility took 3 hours. When they arrived, they found a plain building surrounded by a tall fence. The sign at the entrance said, Lake Michigan Water Quality Research Center. A guard checked their IDs and the papers Agent Reeves had given them. Follow the blue line, the guard said, pointing to a colored stripe on the floor inside the building. Fine. Boys walked through empty hallways following the blue line. It led them to an elevator. When they stepped inside, there were no buttons, just a small screen that scanned their faces. Identity confirmed, a computer voice said. The elevator began to move down. How far down are we going? Frank asked nervously, as the elevator kept descending. After what seemed like minutes, the elevator stopped and the doors opened. The boys stepped out into a large room filled with computers and strange equipment. People in lab coats and military uniforms moved around. Quickly, no one paid attention to the 3 teenagers. Agent Reeves was waiting for them. You're late, she said. The train was delayed, Kyle explained. Agent Reeves did not seem to care about their excuse. This way, she said, leading them through the busy room to a quieter area with a conference table. Commander Walshek sat at the table in his advanced wheelchair. He looked more alien today. His blue skin tone was more noticeable and his eyes had a strange glow to them. You came, he said. Good. Like we had a choice, Kyle muttered. You always have a choice, Kyle Benson, Commander Walshek said. That is something my people value about humans. Even when facing dire consequences, you still exercise free will. Agent Reeves pressed a button, and the walls of the room became screens showing space. The boys saw Earth, the moon, and then the view, zoomed out to show the whole solar system. The situation has gotten worse, Commander Walshek said. Vargon scout ships have been detected crossing the orbit of Neptune. The view zoomed in on several small ships moving through space. They were shaped like arrowheads and glowed with a red light. Are those really alien ships? Peter asked, his eyes wide with wonder and fear. Yes, Commander Walshek replied. They are the advanced scouts for the main fleet. What do they want? Frank asked. Agent Reeves answered. The Vargons are a predatory species. They consume planets with developing civilizations. Earth has been on their radar since you started broadcasting radio signals into space. So it's like in the movies? Aliens want to invade Earth? Kyle asked. This is not a movie, Commander, Walshek said sharply. The Vargons will strip your planet of resources, including all organic life. They have done this to 17 other worlds in the past century. The screens changed to show images of barren planets. Once they might have been full of life, but now they were just empty rocks. Why are you showing us this? Kyle asked. What can we possibly do about it? My mission was to confirm Earth's readiness for full diplomatic relations and military support from the Galactic Alliance, Commander, Walshek explained. My report was nearly complete when you three decided to push me down a flight of stairs. The boys looked down in shame. That incident caused my superiors to question whether humans are ready to join the Alliance. They wonder if you are still too violent, too primitive in your thinking. That's not fair, Kyle said. You can't judge all humans because of what we did. That is exactly what I told them, Commander Walshek said. And that is why you are here. Agent Reeves handed each boy a folder. Inside were documents with strange symbols and English translations. These are diplomatic papers, she explained. Commander Walshek has arranged for you three to join him on a mission to our orbital station. There, you will meet with representatives of the Galactic Alliance. The boys stared at the papers in shock. You want us to go to space? Peter asked. Yes, Commander Walshek said. You will represent humanity in a formal apology and request for alliance. Frank laughed nervously. You want us to be ambassadors? We're just high school kids. No, Commander, Walshek replied coolly. I want you to understand what your actions have endangered. The screens changed again to show a massive space station orbiting Earth. It was hidden from Earth's detection systems by advanced technology. This station has been here for 50 years, Agent Reeves said. Only a few people in our government know about it. It serves as a meeting place for Earth representatives and the Alliance. When do we leave? Kyle asked, his voice shaking slightly. Now, Commander Walshek said. The situation does not allow for delay. Another door opened, and 3 people entered carrying what looked like spacesuits. These will protect you during transport, Commander Walshek explained. Our shuttle uses technology that can be hard on human bodies without proper protection. As the boys were helped into the suits, Kyle looked at Commander Walshek. Why us? Why not ask the president or real diplomats to do this? Because sometimes, the most powerful statement is not made by those with power, but by those who have caused harm and seek to make it right, Commander Walshek replied. The Alliance needs to see that even the worst of humanity can change. The boys followed Commander Walshek to yet another elevator. This one took them up, not down. When the doors opened, they were in a hangar. A sleek craft waited for them. It did not look like any aircraft they had ever seen. That's a spaceship, Peter whispered. It is a diplomatic shuttle. Commander Walshek corrected. It will take us to the station. As they approached the shuttle, a ramp extended from its side. The inside was larger than it appeared from the outside. There were seats with strange harnesses and screens showing various data. Sit. Secure yourselves. Do not touch anything, Commander Walshek instructed as he positioned his wheelchair in a special dock. The boys sat in the seats and allowed the harnesses to automatically secure them. The ramp closed and the shuttle came to life around them. Lights flickered and a soft humming filled the air. I'm scared, Frank admitted. Good, Commander Walshek said. Fear is appropriate when facing the unknown, but do not let it control you. The shuttle began to move. There was no sensation of speed, but the screens showed the hangar falling away. Then they were rising into the sky faster than any airplane. The blue of the sky quickly darkened to black. Stars appeared. We're in space, Peter said in awe. Commander, Walshek looked at the 3 boys who had pushed him down the stairs just days ago. Now your real education begins, he said. Now you will learn who I really am and what your actions have truly done. The journey to the space station took less than 30 minutes. The boys watched through the screens as Earth became smaller below them. No one spoke much during the trip. Each boy was lost in his own thoughts. We're approaching the station, Commander Walshek announced. Look to your left. At first, the boy saw nothing but stars. Then, as if appearing out of nowhere, a massive structure came into view. It was shaped like a wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Lights glowed along its surface. The station was huge, much larger than the International Space Station the boys had seen in pictures at school. It was invisible, Frank said in amazement. Cloaking technology, Commander Walshek explained. The station cannot be detected by Earth's sensors. The shuttle slowed as it approached a docking bay on the central hub. There was a slight bump as they connected with the station. Remember your training, Commander Walshek said. Speak only when spoken to. Show respect at all times. The future of your planet depends on the impression you make. The boys nodded, nervously. They had received a quick lesson on diplomatic protocol before leaving Earth, but they still felt completely unprepared. The shuttle door opened, and they followed Commander Walshek onto the station. The gravity felt normal, which surprised the boys. They had expected to float like the astronauts they had seen on TV. Artificial gravity, Commander Walshek said, noticing their surprise. Makes life on the station more comfortable. They entered a large room with high ceilings. The walls were made of a material that seemed to shift colors slightly as they moved. At the center of the room was a circular table with strange chairs around it. Wait here, Commander Walshek instructed. The representatives will arrive soon. As they waited, Kyle looked around nervously. I can't believe this is happening, he whispered to the others. 3 days ago we were just normal kids. Now we're in space about to meet aliens. This is all your fault, Frank said. Pushing him down the stairs was your idea. You helped, Kyle shot back. Stop it, Peter said. Fighting won't help. Before they could argue more, a door on the far side of the room opened. 3 beings entered. The boys stared in amazement. The first was tall and thin with skin that looked like polished metal. It had 4 arms and moved with a fluid grace. The second was shorter and stockier with features that reminded the boys of both birds and lizards. Its skin was covered in colorful scales that shifted like a chameleon. The third looked almost human except for its pale blue skin and large almond-shaped eyes. Commander Walshek moved forward. Representatives of the Alliance, I present to you 3 humans from Earth, Kyle Benson, Frank Morris, and Peter Dawson, the CIA. Boys stood frozen until Peter remembered their training and bowed slightly. Kyle and Frank quickly did the same. The tall being with metal skin spoke. Its voice was like music. These are the humans who assaulted you, Commander? They are, Commander, Walshek confirmed. And you believe they can demonstrate human capacity for growth? Asked the lizard bird being. I do, Commander Walshek said. The third being, the one that looked almost human, approached the boys. I am Ambassador Lorek of the Prion system. I will serve as your guide during your stay here. Ambassador Lorek's voice was gentle and had a slight accent that the boys couldn't place. His skin up close had a subtle crystalline quality that caught the light. Thank you, Kyle said, finding his voice at last. We're honored to be here. Ambassador Lorek smiled. Come, there is much to show you. For the next several hours, the boys followed Ambassador Lorek through the station. They saw control rooms filled with technology beyond their understanding. They visited gardens where strange plants grew in carefully controlled environments. They passed other aliens in the hallways, each more unusual than the last. This station has representatives from 28 spacefaring civilizations, Ambassador Lorek explained as they walked. All members of the Galactic Alliance. And Earth could join this alliance? Peter asked. That was the plan, Ambassador Lorek said. Your species is unique in many ways. Most developing worlds reach space travel before they overcome their violent tendencies. Humans show remarkable cooperation despite your conflicts. As they walked, Ambassador Lorek told them about the Alliance's history and purpose. It had formed thousands of years ago when the Vargon threat first appeared. Member species shared technology, resources, and protection. The Vargons fear only unity, Ambassador Lorek explained. They target isolated worlds, ones without allies. After their tour, the boys were taken to quarters where they could rest. The rooms were comfortable but strange, with furniture designed for beings with different Body shapes. I can't sleep, Frank said as they sat together in the common area of their quarters. I keep thinking about those planets we saw in the briefing, the ones the Vargans destroyed. Me too, Peter admitted. All those people, or whatever they were, just gone. Kyle had been quiet for most of the tour. Now he looked up at his friends. We really messed up, didn't we? Not just getting in trouble at school. This is way bigger than that. Yeah, Frank agreed. But why did they really bring us here? We're not diplomats or scientists. We're just kids. I think I know, Peter said slowly. We're here as examples. They want to see if we can change, learn from our mistakes. If we can, maybe they'll decide humans are worth saving. On the final night before the Galactic Council would vote on Earth's fate, Kyle couldn't sleep. He left their quarters and wandered through the hallways until he found a large window looking out at Earth. The blue planet looked small from this distance. Commander Walshek was there, his wheelchair positioned by the window. Couldn't sleep? The commander asked without turning around. No, Kyle admitted. Too much on my mind. Kyle stood beside the alien who he had pushed down the stairs. For a while, neither spoke. Why did you really bring us here? Kyle finally asked. Commander Walshek was silent for a long moment. Because I needed to understand. Understand what? Why you did it. What makes humans harm each other for amusement? Commander Walshek turned his chair. My species evolved past physical violence 10,000 years ago. We cannot comprehend it. Kyle felt shame wash over him. I don't have a good answer. I was weak and made myself feel strong by hurting someone I thought was weaker. He paused. I was wrong. Commander Walshek studied him. Perhaps there is hope for your kind after all. What happens tomorrow? Tomorrow you speak to the Council. You tell them why Earth deserves a place in the Alliance, why humans, despite their flaws, are worth saving. Kyle looked back at Earth, so beautiful from space. And if we fail? Then the Vargans will come, and your world will join those empty rocks you saw in the briefing. Kyle swallowed hard. No pressure, right? For the first time, Commander Walshek smiled. It was an odd expression on his alien face. Get some sleep, Kyle Benson. Tomorrow you help decide the fate of your species. The next morning, the boys were given new clothes to wear. The outfits looked like formal suits, but were made of a light material that seemed to adjust to their bodies. Each suit was deep blue with a small Earth symbol on the collar. The Council will see you in 1 hour, Ambassador Lorek told them as they ate breakfast. The food was strange but not unpleasant. Are you prepared for your speech? The boys looked at each other nervously. They had stayed up late working on what they would say, but none of them felt ready. As ready as we'll ever be, Kyle answered. Ambassador, Lorek nodded. Remember, speak from your hearts. The Council can sense dishonesty. As they followed Ambassador Lorek to the Council chamber, Frank whispered to the others, no pressure. We're just deciding if Earth lives or dies. Peter nudged him. Not helping. The Council chamber was a large round room with rising seats that formed a circle. In the center was a platform where speakers stood. The room was already filled with representatives from different worlds. The boys recognized some from their tour, but many were new to them. Commander Walshek waited for them at the entrance. The Council is ready, he said. Remember, you represent all of humanity now. The boys followed Commander Walshek to the center platform. The room fell silent as they took their places. Kyle found himself staring at the strange beings that would decide Earth's fate. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien with forms he could barely understand. A tall being rose from the highest seat. It had 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. This council is convened to determine the status of Earth in relation to the Galactic Alliance. Commander Walshek, you may present your witnesses. Commander Walshek moved his wheelchair forward. Esteemed members of the council, I present to you 3 humans. Kyle Benson, Frank Morris, and Peter Dawson. They come before you to speak on behalf of their species, the Council leader nodded. Who will speak first? Kyle took a deep breath and stepped forward. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to stand tall. All the anger and arrogance that had led him to bully Danny was gone now. In its place was a desperate hope that he could somehow fix what he had broken. I come before you to apologize, Kyle began, his voice shaking slightly. Not just for what we did to Commander Walshek, but as a representative of humanity's worst impulses. The chamber was completely silent as Kyle continued. Humans are capable of terrible cruelty. I won't deny that. I was cruel to someone simply because I could be, because it made me feel powerful. But humans are also capable of learning, of growing, of recognizing our wrongs, and working to make them right. As Kyle stepped back, Frank moved forward. His voice was quieter than Kyle's, but it carried through the silent room. We're not asking you to judge humanity by its best examples and ignore its worst. We're asking you to judge us by our capacity to change. Frank looked at the faces of the council members, trying to read their expressions. 3 days ago, we were bullies. We hurt someone because we thought he was different, because we thought he was weak. We were wrong about him, but the greater wrong was in our actions, not our judgment. As Frank stepped back, Peter took his place. He was the smallest of the 3 boys, but he stood straight as he faced the council. The Vargons are approaching because they believe we're weak and divided. They're not entirely wrong. Humans fight. We hurt each other. We make terrible mistakes. Peter paused, looking around the chamber. But our divisions don't define us. Our ability to overcome them does. Our capacity to learn, to grow, to become better than we were yesterday, that is what makes humans worthy of your alliance. As Peter finished speaking, Commander Walshek moved forward. I have lived among humans, he addressed the council. I have experienced their cruelty firsthand, but I have also witnessed something remarkable. Their capacity for recognition of wrongdoing and genuine remorse. The council leader raised all 4 hands for silence. We will now vote on Earth status, all in favor of accepting Earth into the Alliance. Raise your indicator. Around the chamber, lights began to appear as council members voted. The boys watched anxiously as more and more lights appeared. When the voting ended, the council leader counted. The vote is 37, in favor, 15 opposed. Earth will receive the Alliance's protection and technology to defend against the Vargan threat. Relief washed over the boys. They had done it. Earth was safe. After the council session ended, Commander Walshek led them to a smaller room where Ambassador Lorek and several human representatives waited. There were handshakes and congratulations all around. You did well, Agent Reeves told the boys. She had arrived at the station overnight with the human delegation. Better than any professional diplomat could have done. As the human representatives discussed next steps with the Alliance members, Commander Walshek approached the 3 boys. Your actions nearly cost your species everything, he said quietly. But your willingness to face the consequences may have saved it. Kyle nodded solemnly. What happens now? Now, Commander Walshek replied, you return to Westbrook High School, with me. We have work to do. The journey back to Earth was much quieter than the trip to the station. The boys were exhausted but proud of what they had accomplished. As the shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, they watched their planet grow larger in the view screen. It looks different now, Peter said, knowing what's out there. Everything is different now, Frank agreed. 1 month later, Westbrook High School launched a new program. Posters in the hallways announced it. One World, One Future, building a better community. The program focused on ending bullying and promoting understanding between different groups of students. The 3 former bullies were now the program's most active members. Kyle, once the leader of the bullies, now spoke to younger students about respect and kindness. Frank used his computer skills to create a website where students could report bullying anonymously. Peter organized events that brought different student groups together, and moving through the school hallways, still in his wheelchair, was Danny Walsh. Students who looked closely might notice that his wheelchair was slightly more advanced than most. Teachers might wonder why government officials visited him regularly. But no one knew the full truth except the three boys who had once pushed him down the stairs. Sometimes when the former bullies looked up at the night sky, they remembered their journey to the space station. They remembered how close they had come to destroying everything, and they remembered the lesson they had learned, that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from power over others, but from the courage to admit when you are wrong. What no one at school ever realized was that the incident on the stairs wasn't just a turning point for three bullies. It was the pivot point upon which the fate of human civilization had balanced. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Vargon ships were turning away from Earth, seeking easier prey, while the watchful guardians of the Galactic Alliance kept their promise to protect their newest member.